you should come to Berkeley just to get used to rejection. I'm Indian. I should be fine. I'm supposed to be smart. That's what my parents told me, right? Like if I continue to live in India, I was already told that, okay, you're supposed to go on this little engineering path. It really comes down to like having an outgoing personality in general. Learn into things that you actually care about, or like, do you just want to follow the crowd? I'm always trying to figure out like, where do my interests exactly lie?
Hello, Pranav. Can you tell me a little bit about what your major is?
Yeah, of course. So doing CS and astrophysics, which is not a major combo that you see at Berkeley a lot for some reason. I don't know why. I thought like doing astrophysics school is like my main focus usually. But since while I was here at Berkeley, I was like, might as well try what the what the CS hype is about, and then I just got sucked into this little black hole.
No, I mean, I've heard someone that's really into fashion and really into astrophysics. So I guess in that kind of realm, you're still there because you still have both like two very technical majors. But I'm curious, what got you into each of these? Like CS.
Right. Parental pressure.
Parental pressure.
It's like while you're. So this is how my thought process went, right? Like, top 5 majors at UC Berkeley, business, CS, blah blah blah. And my parents were like, okay, so it says CS right there. You're gonna do that because why? Because you're good at math. That's how it usually goes in like Indian parents. But then I took one of the introductory CS classes, which is Data 8, and I thought that was like really cool. It's basically treated like a kindergarten class if you talk to like really crack people here. But I thought it was like right there, like right in the difficulty level where I was comfortable with. So that's the reason why I stuck with CS. And astrophysics was something that I always wanted to do, like, but I never really told my parents because they're like, it doesn't make no money. You gotta go to 8 years of school. But I was, it's just something that I was like, okay, if given the independence to do it, I always wanted to done it. And since I was here at Berkeley, they let me double major, and I was like, cool.
Right, and it's a capital here, right? I mean, You have like all the astro labs like very close by, so I'm sure it's like very easy to access like the people you want to talk to.
Yep.
But super cool. Like, did your parents ever also tell you about the $200,000 a year salary that was next to CS, or was it just like, oh, it's a first major?
Oh, yeah, that's like one of the points that like not only my parents but my entire family highlighted. They're like, that makes solid amount of money. It's either you do CS or you're going to med school straight up. Like you either do two of those goddamn things. Yeah, that's your life path, right? But like again, what they never, or like not only my parents but like Indian families in general do not tend to emphasize is like how useful CS can be, and that's something you find out like while you're taking classes like Data 8 or like whatever. Like they tell you how you can use whatever you're learning right now into other realms of life. So that's really interesting. That's why I stuck with it for the most part.
Could you go a little deeper into that? I'm curious, like where have you found the applications of CS to be in your life?
Right. So like for example, while I was taking Data 8, I got to participate in like this little datathon, and I always consider myself someone who's like good at math but useless in humanities, right? Like that kind of person. But then during one of these datathons, I used like all the things that I learned in my Data 8, try to do something about it, something with them, and it ended up being a project about like water consumption, analyzing water consumption policies in California, which is something that I never imagined myself to do. Like not in 1,000 years, like would I be like, oh, do I really care about water consumption? Not really. All I want to do is tech. I want to code. But yeah, then I got to realize, oh, okay, so this is applicable here. After that, there's like following that, there are like data science projects based on like analyzing which artist is the most popular. And I was like, oh, I listen to music. This is cool. And then you get to see like more examples of it, and then you're like, oh, it's really applicable if you make it applicable. It really comes down to that personal choice of whether you want to use what you learn into things that you actually care about, or like do you just want to follow the crowd. So it comes down to a personal choice, I think.
That sounds really funny. Like, do you ever feel that the pressure that you're given by your parents ever like affects your enjoyment out of this degree at all, or have you just kind of disregarded their opinion like entirely?
Again, I would say like it's not like now they have chilled out a lot. but sometimes that, yeah. Now they're a lot more calm down about what I want to do and my personal choices themselves. I do not want to completely disregard them, but what I would rather do is come to a middle ground and convince them of what I'm trying to do. And it would, like, at the end of the day, I would still be happy even if I made like I don't know, 50K instead of 100K. So, because I think it's very important for me to be intrinsically motivated to do things. I cannot be just doing whatever I want. Like, sure, I still want money. Like, it's still there. Like, a part of it is still considered in the decision process. I'm not gonna lie, right? But it's still like if there has to be a trade-off, then I cannot just choose money. I also need to enjoy what I do. So yeah.
I'm curious, what would be a situation, or how do you envision a life where you're only making $50,000 a year? Like, do you ever think about that? Since you said you would be comfortable doing that?
Not with the current rates of inflation, and definitely not in the Bay Area. I'll tell you that. We are moving to somewhere in Tennessee or Georgia or somewhere in the South, because this is terrible. This place is terrible. But again, not like enough money to lead a comfortable life. Like, I do not need to be like in top 1%. Like, I'm comfortable. Like, where I have a little house, I can go eat, just come back, do my job. Just that would be enough. Like, I'm not asking for much. I do not have high standards. I have literally slept on this floor right here, like in the past. So it's fine. We're chilling.
Do you think standards come out of being given a lot of things like while growing up, or do you think it's like a kind of a mindset thing? Can anyone just drop their standards immediately?
I think, I think it comes from where you rank comfort in while making your decisions, right? That and like being used to the way you grow up, right? So like I grew up in India. So just
Wait, straight up,
developing
like you're
country.
international, or
Huh?
are you like were you international coming to Berkeley here, or?
Not really. So I moved from India to America in junior year of high school, right? So I still spent most of my childhood. So lots of my mannerisms slash standard comes from me growing up in India, right? But I still had a very fairly comfortable life in India. Like the living standards there could be said like it was worse than whatever we are offered here in America. But like it was still like manageable. Like I never found any problem with it. Like it was chill. I don't know. But yeah, coming back to the question, it also depends on where you rank comfort in, right? Like, I don't really want to sleep on the floor like every single day. That would be inconvenience, right? But if it comes down to like, say, having a night out just for like just with your friends, like, am I willing to make that sacrifice? Well, hell yeah! I'd be so down to do that just because I know I prefer the company of my friends over my comfort, right? As long as it's not the case every single day. Like we can't just be stuffed into a room for every single day of the year.
I'm confused. You said you'd rather be accompanied by your friends rather than comfort. What is a comfort in this context?
Like what I mean by that is like sharing a bed, right? Like or like having a bed can be considered a standard of living, right? Can you agree with?
Oh, that kind of comfort. Okay.
Yeah. So like I'm willing to drop my standards a little bit for temporary reasons if I get to have something that I value more. So that's how I usually go with my standards.
Tell me a little bit about how you were growing up. Must have been like a crazy cultural shift coming from India, like from such a period of time where you would kind of really understand your position in life. I feel like as a junior in high school, you think you know it all, but I'm surprised how you were able to adjust so well.
Right. I think so. First of all, like again, as you mentioned, it was like a very weird point in your life where you would not try, like where you're still deciding where your position is. But while I was in India, right, like my position was in some ways, like if I continued to live in India, that was already decided. Like I was already told that, okay, you're supposed to go on this low engineering path. You're supposed to enroll yourself in an engineering college, right? Because that's the way out, right? That's the way you're supposed to maintain your income, maintain your comforts, maintain your standards in India, right? You get a nice job, then you move to America, and then you increase your standards, right? So for me, I was like, okay, I never thought about what I wanted to do, but I was like, okay, whatever I'm given or assigned to do, I'll just do it, right? But the choice came in junior year, or more like by the end of sophomore year, of whether I want to continue living in India or move over to the US, right? At the time, I was studying really hard for all those engineering exams, which I've been studying since sixth grade, seventh grade, by the way, because that's how harsh like India's competitive exams can get, right? But again, it more or less came down to me realizing that I may have more freedom on what I want and still maintain the standards that we talked about earlier, right? Like I still value that me having a comfortable life, right? All of that, but it also came down to the fact that okay, I may have freedom to do astrophysics. I may have freedom to just be a dancer someday. I may have freedom to do this, which I may not get in India. That those were like the two biggest thing, and then the third thing that it came down to was like this excitement about like just moving to a new different country, living a new life. That was very exciting at the time, so I was like, might as well. Like I consider that to be like one of my strongest suits, like just taking that leap of faith all the time, just doing whatever I want to do. And my parents were like, okay, fine. We got an uncle who lives in America. I was like, cool. Took a little plane and then just boom. When I came here though, I obviously had an accent, right? And I realized like at the time, I know like in hindsight, it's not the best way to think about it. You should always do things that the way you're like, you should not change things just because of how other people may perceive you, right? But like for context, I'm just a junior. So it's very important for me to like fit into American schools and like make American friends and do this, right? So I was like, my accent might be one of the biggest things that might cause me not to make friends, right? Which is a bad mindset. You should never do that. But since I did it, I would, matter of fact, like I would sit down with my cousin, look at the way he pronounces certain words, take notes on it, and then do that over time. Not only that, but like friends or like TV shows or like, um, shout out to Hassan Minaj, who would like I would try to copy the way he talks, and that's how I got to like that, like getting over the accent along with other things in my life was like, okay, yeah, now I'm trying to be more American or like whatever Californian American means, because California, like whatever so like in hindsight, like friends tell me that the way I act when I speak Hindi is completely different from the way I act when I speak English, which is very interesting. Not something that I noticed, and that's what my parents have told me too, and people in my family. So yeah, that's like a process, and I still think like it's not that I've like completely let go of my Indian side, like, but now I'm trying to embrace it more, and it's like with friends that are Indian that happen to be Indian who helped me bring that side out of me. Like, hey, listen to this song, listen to this song, listen. So like I'm just trying my best to keep that alive as well, while also appreciating the position that I'm in right now.
Big respect. Do you ever compare yourself to other international students? Do you ever hear their stories about whether or not they did the same thing as you to kind of learn the dialect, learn the accent?
Um, I can, or more like, I I try not to do that, since like I understand what it means to like having to complete or like forcing yourself to change an accent, right? So it's more like, okay, you stuck with that decision, I respect. But given the position I was in, like in junior year, what I did was like also respectable. Like I understand. Like, will I ever do it again? Probably not, right? But when it comes to like drawing comparisons, like I try my best not to do that because I know my circumstances and the circumstances of other international students are very, very different. They might have just grown to be comfortable with their accent their whole life, right? Nobody told them that, hey, that's something that's looked down upon. Like, hey, you have a silly voice or like whatever, right? Or maybe not until the point where they have reached maturity where like they do not care about it, right? Like, sure, I'm pretty sure like international students here did this all the time, like, hey, you have a funny voice or whatever, right? But since they've reached that maturity where they're like, oh, we do not need to care about what these people say. I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm gonna speak the way I want. When I did it, I was not in that position. So it's more of like, yeah, like we both are different, but I try my best not to compare.
Right. You strike me as someone who has a lot of life, and I can see why a lot of people would want to hang out with you and go out. How did you go about finding a personality that attracts a lot of people towards you. Is there like a tip that you would give to other international students who find it hard to fit in, to kind of find a strategy so that they can fit in?
Right. First and foremost, I would like to just point out that it really comes down to like having an outgoing personality in general, right? So it does. What I'm trying to say is, it does not matter if you have an accent. It does not matter if you dress different. It does not matter if you eat different. None of that matters as long as your outgoing personality, like you will be fine, right? But on tips on how to do that, on how exactly to get to that point of like, I consider myself really introverted, right? And I do not think like many people guess that correctly, except like the group of my closest friends. And that's because like I just, ever since I attended college, or like in the beginning first semester of college, I would not talk to anybody on my floor. Like nobody knew my existence except like one or two, three people, including my roommate. Um, but after that, I would try day by day, just a little bit. Like, hey, I'm gonna make it my goal to like talk to one more person. I'm gonna try and say hi to one more person. I'm gonna try to tell a stranger part of my story, or I'm gonna ask them this stupid question, right? Like you know me, like I ask lots of stupid questions to like lots of strangers now, but it all began with like asking one question, talking to one new stranger every day, trying to make one new friend, trying to show up to one more event, trying to do this, trying to do that, right? And once you have like an enough number of friends, you like at that point it can just grow. Like once you get 5 friends, they'll introduce them to your friends, or like they'll introduce you to their friends. It goes 10 and then 15. Like it'll just grow. It's just that is the hardest part is getting like comfortable enough to make 5 friends. Then after that, boom, it's just easy. Like with time, your conversational skills go up. You get more comfortable with talking to strangers, getting rid of the anxiety which some may encounter like initially. And yeah, it's just a process, and I still think like I'm not there yet, but like I'm still working up to it. So every day I still try to talk to one more stranger, whether it's like striking up a conversation, I'm okay. If it's striking up a conversation, like say they're gay, like just asking them the stupidest question, like, hey, what kind of women are you into? Like any dumb question, like that would just do the trick. Especially that, like I think guys love that question. Like inside them, like there's just stuff wasted, because no guy's going to not have an answer to that. Like it's very rare. They might not tell you, but you might have to dig up to that, and that's also another conversation. But yeah, it's an awesome question to have. So that's like one of the biggest tips with dudes. With girls, you stay silent. Yeah, but yeah.
Can you recall a time that has been the most beneficial for you to kind of be outgoing in that context? Is it like, did you ever have like a block party that just got you like 2 new friends? Did you ever just randomly interact with someone at a library and now you guys are buddy buddy? Like, can you recall something specific like that?
Yes. So in the life of every single introvert, right, there comes a moment where you get adopted by an extrovert, right? And you all know who goddamn I'm referring to. Shout out to Vishal Saredi. He had another one of these podcasts. Um, Me getting adopted by that man and Yui Lefkowitz. Those two are like still considered, like I still consider them like one of the closest friends here. And Tay, like all three of them are so extroverted. They know like the entire school of Berkeley. Like every time we were just walking down, I know it's gonna take us 10 more minutes just because he's gonna stop by. He's gonna be dap up everyone and gonna be, hey, how's your been? And I'm like, come on, we're gonna be late again. But but yeah, it's just that little moment where you get adopted by an extrovert, and then you just get to talk and meet so many new people, and then that extrovert friend can just be like, hey, look, meet my friend here, Pranav. And that process just keeps going on, and then you can expand your social circle. And then even like when you get adopted by an extrovert, but in that sense you get to see like, okay, this is how I can strike up a conversation. This is what I can do to keep the conversation going. These are the questions I may ask, right? So you get to learn a lot by being around people who you want to be like in like this sense. I do not mean like you should try to like make them a role model, but hey, if you want to learn how to be a good conversationalist, like hang around with people who are good conversationalists. It's that easy.
So who are you trying to be now?
Who am I trying to be now? I think like now it has come down to me. Like first, I'll try to be like, again, what I mean by that is I'm not trying to be like Vishal or like anyone, but I'm trying to be more conversational, or I'm trying to, or like right now in my life, I'm trying to do more um, niche things, or like I'm trying to be more adventurous, not only outside of school, but also like taking more risk, like trying to learn this technology, trying to, venture into this side of astrophysics, or trying to do this research, trying to do this club, trying to do this, right? So right now it's not more of a question of who exactly, like I cannot name one person, but I can list you down like what qualities I'm trying to work towards. And again, there's like hundreds of them, because it's still like every day, still like a lot of it is work in progress, because I'm still 19. I still do many dumb things, still make many dumb mistakes, lots of room to grow.
What's the biggest risk you've taken so far?
Oh, I would definitely say like coming to America, like, because oh boy, like the thing is, it was junior year of high school, right? My goofy ass did not realize at the time that junior year is considered like one of the biggest years, like in sorts in context to like college admissions. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm Indian, I should be fine. I'm supposed to be smart. That's what my parents told me, right? But now, boy, I was wrong. Boy, I was wrong. That's SAT practice test one. That took me out. That took me out, right? So that was like the biggest risk. And then, or more of like, it was not risk in terms of like, hey, I might not have been able to go to a good college or whatever, but it was more like at the time, if I had not gotten into something, it would have crushed my confidence. Like now I'm comfortable, like, okay, like whatever, like I still have that little insecurity, like, okay, maybe if I don't get a job or whatever, right? But at the time, it would have been devastating, because in Indian households, like the college you attend is like 90% of your identity. Like everything changed, bro. Before Berkeley, I was a sore loser in the dark black sheep of the family. Right after college, oh, he's so nice. He's such a boy. He's such a good boy. His personality is such a no. I know your opinions would have been so much different, but yeah, like coming here like without knowing anything, or like I probably should have researched more on what I was supposed to be doing. But I'm glad I took that risk, and I'm so happy that I did.
Few guests on this podcast have kind of expressed their distaste for how competitive clubs here are. Adding on to what you're saying about your tolerance for risk, do you think it was kind of catalyzed by Berkeley in any way, or do you think this is just something that you picked up?
Like risk taking. Oh.
Yeah. So you mentioned that the big thing was coming to America, but do you think Berkeley propelled that even further, or not really?
How do I say? I think, I mean, absolutely. Like in terms of like me just taking risks, like sure, I took that was the biggest risk I ever took, like in terms of my professional life. But when it comes to like breaking that barrier of like trying to make friends, because I still carried a little bit of social anxiety, a little bit of this. So I would not be the one to like talk to people immediately. So taking that little risk of like trying to make a new friend, or taking that little risk of like asking a girl out, like doing those little risks is something that Berkeley helped with. Now when it comes to like club culture, it's very interesting, because like I got rejected so many times. Like first semester, I lost count. I had a little spreadsheet, and it's red, rejected, rejected, rejected. Wait, listen, rejected. like that, right?
It's almost like a job application.
Oh yeah, that's exactly how my internship is going as well. But Berkeley has prepared me goddamn well for it. So it was like lots of rejections, right? But then I was like, you know what? Leave this, like, and then I got to join and meet these wonderful group of people, which were also in the same boat. They're like, okay, we took so many L's on this club application. Let's just make a new club and make it open to everyone, right? And that's how like Open Project started, which I'm very glad that I'm a part of now. And now I have the opportunity to lead it now, which is cool. And that's exactly how it was created, because they wanted to make tech space here at Berkeley open to everyone. They wanted students who, just cared about CS, just showed that a little bit of spark for CS. They just wanted to let everyone and that was the entire point. Because if you're at Berkeley, we assume like, okay, you definitely did something, you definitely had some motivation, you definitely had some interest. And yeah, so like honestly, like if you take a couple of L's, like do not get too demotivated by it. It just comes down to like, okay, you did this, maybe you can learn something out of it, right? And just start deciding on your next step might be. Like take your time to grieve over it, try to cry about it, try to get a crumble cookie to make yourself happier, right? Whatever helps, whatever however you deal with grief in general. But make sure that you also have the courage and I don't want to say the balls, but the balls to like take that very next step. So that's how it comes down to like dealing with the rejection at Berkeley.
Aside from reputation, how do you kind of see the balance between your personal projects, personal learning in CS, and kind of the forced curriculum that's put onto you as a student?
Um, Look, I know it's like it might be a hot take here. I don't know how much people consider Berkeley's education to be theoretical, but in my humble opinion, I think I really enjoy it. Like it's not I would not even say like it's necessarily forced upon me because I think okay, I'm not too experienced with how CS works in like industry or whatever, right? But I think the way CS classes are structured, they make me do lots of code. It's very different from just sitting on your laptop, reading a bunch of text. And that, because that's what I've been used to in India. That's how they teach CS in India. They do not put you on a computer. They give you a textbook and you're supposed to do exercises on that textbook, right? Very different, very big jump, right? So in my eyes, like the CS classes curriculum that they have here is like very hands-on according to the way I think or whatever I'm used to. Now when it comes to like applying that to my personal projects or like personal interests, I think it's more of a personal choice. Like they give you all the tools, right? You're just supposed to use it the way you want to use it. um that and just having that intrinsic motivation to like, hey, I know this, how can I, or figuring out ways on how you can do that, right? And I think that's what clubs at Berkeley are generally for. Like they can help you learn how to use those technologies, use whatever you learn, and use it towards something that you actually care about. But again, it's the clubs are not necessary for this, but they might help once in a while. But again, but if you're personally motivated enough, it should be perfectly fine.
You've talked a lot about what being intrinsically motivated for whatever goal it is. Is there some? Can you sum up like what drives you the most in life?
Um, I think like fulfilling as much of the curiosity that I hold when it comes to space. Like I'm really curious on, say, what's going on in Mars. I'm really curious on how black holes are formed exactly, or how they explode, or how this happens, how that happens. I'm really curious on how Spotify's backend works. Let's, for example, like how do they come up with those little morning mix or like sleep mix or whatever, right? Like that could be like for me the biggest driver of like this intrinsic motivation comes down to my curiosity. And I think that is like that childlike curiosity is very important, like very, very important. Because that for me is like the biggest driver. Then like if it like sure I want to have enough money as I said before, but that comes slightly above like me trying to learn all those things. So yeah,
How would you envision yourself in the next 10 years?
very good question. I don't know. I
That's a bit too
honestly,
far.
it is a question that is too far because um it's like I could see myself like ideally I could tell you what I ideally want, right? But I don't know if it'll happen because what life has shown me so far is like anything can happen. Like I'm very, very like spontaneous sometimes. Like me moving to America was very spontaneous. I decided within 2 days. It was that easy, right? So I'm like very spontaneous, and that spontaneity can lead to like random things in life that I would have never imagined, right? But I can tell you right now what I want. I would like after college, I'd like to pay off my little student debts that I got from all that international tuition that I've been paying. After that, I'd love to like once I'm done with my debt, I'd I would ideally try some research, and spend my time in whatever research topic that I've not decided yet. Spend time in that. I know you asked just 10 years, but I can give you a bigger plan. Right
Yeah, of
after I'm done
course.
with all that, I want to become an elementary school teacher.
An elementary school teacher.
But just to like teach kids and allow them to see what I see about space and stuff. Like I think that's very cool. Um, because growing up, like what I was always emphasized about is like, hey, marks, grades, like all this, right? I want the next generation to truly see why space is cool, why sciences are cool, why CS is cool, why math is cool, why English is cool, why all these things are cool. Not because they're not cool just because you got an A in it. It's cool because you get to see all this. You get to math does this. Math allows you to do this. CS allows you to do that. So I think that would be my aim after that. After it's said and done.
You're like the third person now who on this podcast that's talked about like teaching, and I think it's like a really beautiful thing that there's more people that want to spread their knowledge about whatever topic that they're specialized in. Do you think that in the future specialized elementary schools are going to exist? Specialized middle schools maybe? Like you already have like arts middle schools and like I don't know about arts elementary school, but where do you think the fundamental baseline for what they should be taught, and like should we be giving the decision to minds that haven't been developed yet to kind of force themselves into a path that they might see in the future that they can't back out of?
See, that's my grudge with like having specialized education. Um, like I do not think I think kids need more time. Like let alone let alone elementary school. I did not know what I was doing like until a semester back. Like even when I'm grown up, right? I'm pretty sure people who have been on podcasts before me, like they knew what they were doing, or they probably have a better idea. I didn't. Like until like, bro, I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. Like let alone 20 years into the future, right? So I do not think it's the best idea to like have specialized like sure, if you're curious about space, you should be allowed to learn more, right? But I also want you to see, or like give you the pathway or doorway to see why English might be cool, or why this might be cool, or why humanities might be cool. Like I would be, in my opinion, I would be opposed to the idea of having specialized elementary school just because of the reason that you mentioned as well. Minds are not developed. Like I'm still a dumbass. Like, let alone like a 10-year-old me. Like I don't think it's fair enough to take away the freedom to explore so many things that you have not even given the time to that kid to explore. You know what I mean?
So just serve as like kind of a totem that people can look up to, almost like a role model, right?
Um, or like me as a role model.
Yeah, so I'm just instead of having specialized education, I'm assuming you want to be like a role model that people can look up to so that in the future they can be like, "Oh, Pranav, he was a space guy and he always would tie in space with English and I always it's inspired me to want to learn more about space."
Right. Or sure, like that if that happens, like I'll be so happy, right? I'll be delighted. But as a teacher or like even now, like even if I want to teach even right now, I want them to see like, okay, space ties in with English, but if there's something that you like in English, go ahead. Just know that space might have a good connection to it and it was really cool, right? I want to give the doorway not to push down space sciences or physics knowledge or CS knowledge down into anybody's throats. Rather, I want them to enjoy it. Not because I was a space guy and I did whatever I did, but because they think that is cool. I just want to serve as like a medium that conveys that. So it's more of that.
Can you recall a time in college where you were at your lowest?
Um, I think, in my opinion, it's very hard to pinpoint to exact time in college where I was at the lowest because I can I could be like say lowest like socially, right? Like I could be at a where I do not have many friends, or like I could be where I'm really exhausted, but I might be doing well academically, right? Um, really depends on how you might define lowest, but I think when it comes to me, it came right around the end of spring semester, freshman year. Um, it was just like I felt like I did not really belong here at Berkeley. at the time, I would like, I'm trying my best, I'm trying to make all these friends, but somehow it's not working, or like I always carry that insecurity of like, what if they say hi to my face but they don't really like me, right? um or like, do I even enjoy talking to some of my friends, like the closest friends? Like, it was lots of these silly questions. Do I, or like some other people at the time would, like people I had around me at that time, they'll like say things that like in hindsight would like hurt my confidence really bad at the time. And I was like, oh, like, yeah, it was like fucked up, like like. But now after that, I had a little summer break, I traveled, it was lots of fun, and I think I somehow got my confidence back. I came back like fully charged, fully ready to dive into other semester. But I think end of spring semester, which is perfectly normal. Like, it's very normal to like go through these lows and highs. Like, even fall semester, which I consider myself to be the best semester that I've had so far, was like very full of ups and downs. Like, it went like whoosh all the time. And it's just, and I expect my spring semester to go the exact same way. Like, it's not gonna be whoosh or like whoosh, but more like a,
Right. So, as a contrast to that, what are you looking forward to this semester?
oh, the goals. Um, I think first and foremost, I'm trying to, like, sure, first semester, if like the first year and the first half of second year was about like going out of my way and like making as many friends as I can. This semester is more about like deciding on who might be in the closest circle for me. Like, who are the people who got my backs for sure, like, or who are the people that I want to talk to, or who are the people I look up to. So it comes down to the fact like, okay, how can I prioritize, because now, like, as we are progressing into like second year, third year, I think there's gonna be less time available like for social activities and stuff. So I'm really trying to prioritize that, find where I think I get the most bang for my time, for like me trying to have fun, like, so that I, not only me, it's not about just me having fun, but also the people that I hang out with are also having fun back. So yeah, like, just trying to narrowing that circle down. And obviously when it comes to academics and stuff, like, I'm always trying to figure out like where do my interests exactly lie, like trying to pinpoint like where. But again, it's a long process. I don't think I'll be able to do that in the next 4 or 5 years, let alone like next semester. So
Some of our viewers might be high school students that are debating whether or not they should go into UC Berkeley, if they should apply. In your personal experience and overall with all the experiences you've had so far, would you recommend this school?
oh, 100%, 100%. I know if you ask like every single person here at Berkeley, the majority might say no, right? Uh, but I think not even in terms of say academic prestige or whatever. Like, sure, that helps, right? But in terms of pure experiences I've had, the people who are here, uh, again, Berkeley carries this reputation of being a really competitive school, being this, being that. But what it really comes down to is meeting people who are not necessarily trying to bring you down, who are not competitive, right? And it's very easy. Trust me, it's not that hard. Like, sure, did I get lucky in terms of finding a social floor during my first year? Yes, but I think it's not. Again, I don't think it's too hard as hard as people might make out to be. People here can get really collaborative, and I still think from again, everyone thinks so probably, but the friends I have right now, like the closest people friends, like, I could totally see them being friends with me for the rest of my life if like things go well and we do not have a big fight or whatever, right? But if that's one of your biggest concerns, like, hey, Berkeley's competitive, but so is most of the life, right? Like, you have, like, sure, competition happens everywhere, right? What you gotta do is learn how to deal with that, right? And Berkeley does an amazing job at this. Like, Berkeley, like, I think in general, like, since I took so many L's like first year, like, it taught me like the ability to do things despite taking L's, right? Like, you cannot just be like, okay, I applied last semester, boom, it did not work out well. You cannot just do that. Like, Berkeley teaches you to apply this semester, get rejected again, apply next semester again, get rejected again. So like I think if anything, you should come to Berkeley just to get used to rejection. And I know it's a sad way to think about life, but That's reality. And at some point, you'll find yourself getting comfortable with rejection. And I think that's the point where like you might finally come across an opportunity, and that like you would feel really blessed or like really truly able to understand what an opportunity may mean after you get all those rejections. So I think Berkeley is really cool, as long as you have the right group of friends.
One of the things I hear a lot in like the self-help community is how high performers usually have a high risk tolerance. So I think it's really good that you preach that and tell everyone that this is kind of the place where you can kind of naturally get that, right? Because otherwise people will be losing maybe more materialistic type of risks, you know, like losing $10,000, which might not be so great. We have a closing tradition on this podcast where the last guest asks the next guest a question without knowing who it is. So, the question you've been given: how often do you talk about your issues and emotions with your friends?
Great question. Really depends on who I consider my closest friends. My 3 or 4 closest friends, they listen to me yap about the same goddamn thing every single day, every single time they see me, right? Uh, like like not, I would not even okay. So like I would talk to them about like the problem at the time that is bothering me the most, right? They know everything. They know most things about me, right? Uh, and I try myself to be open to like those 2 or 3 group of friends that I'm really comfortable with. Apart from that, I try my best not to showcase that I'm only a happy person or I'm only like this little ha 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 kind of guy. Like I try to talk about like what I've like it's okay to like, hey, I'm struggling in this class, yada yada, but we'll be fine. Like I try to talk about it, but not in a condescending way, but more in a like, but it will be fine kind of way. So if you're within my closest circle, like I yap about the worst problems in my life and you might not even be able to take, right? But if you're like a general stranger or like just not the closest friend to me, like I'll talk to you about my problems, but not in great detail.
But do you ever just tell them like, "Hey man, I need to talk about something. I need to get something off my chest," or is it more like a informal thing where you just bring it up whenever you're around everyone?
Um, Again, if it's something like hey, I really want to talk about it, I try to do it one on one with people that I'm comfortable with. I do not like to do it in a group setting because it's too overwhelming for me to listen to 3 people at the same time if a topic is deep enough. um Again, that like I try to keep it out of the blue. I try to like, hey, can we talk for a second? um Try to hold conversation in that context. But again, even after I do end up having that conversation, like I also make sure that I have time to decide for myself on what I need to do next. So yeah, but thankfully I do have friends right now who I'm comfortable with, comfortable being like, hey, when I step out for a second, I just really need to get something on my chest. So yeah.
A lot of this podcast is about kind of figuring out how college students are balancing their time with their projects. How are you balancing everything these days?
Um, Very interesting. I think right now it's a tough question for me to answer because the semester just started. I'm still trying to figure out how the flow of things is looking like. I'm still trying to understand where the responsibilities are, where I want to invest my time in, how am I going to invest my time in, right? But I would say like the general rule that I carry is I need to take 4 hours at the end of the day just for myself, where I'm alone in my bed, or I'm at the gym trying to do things for myself, or I'm just out there dancing by myself. I'm trying to listen to music, or I'm in the shower just by myself, right? So 4 hours to that. Prior to that, I try to step out, right? Spend 3 hours before that, just like trying to socialize, or more, depending on how much work I have left. But in the morning, starting whenever I wake up, my range from from noon to like 2 p.m. or whatever, I try to make sure that okay, I try to work at least for the next 8 hours, right? I'll try to log in, try my absolute best to do that. But after that, it's fair game. If I want to be social, I wanna climb the Doe library or something. I give myself space to do that, right? And after that, I have my little me time where I get to do whatever I want.
If you had to give a question to the next guest without knowing who it is, what would that question be?
Who do you think has impacted your life the most at this point, and why?
Before we close the podcast, where can people find you?
So my Instagram is I'm Pranav, inspired by Barbie and Ken movie. I'm Pranav thingy, and yeah, that should be enough. I'm pretty responsive there, so just talk to me there.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on here today.
Yep, enjoy doing this as well.